that's what I wanted. Okay, please, everybody, give it up. Let's go. It's a tight fit, y'all. I'll sit between you folks. Do we still have more people coming? Or is this it? One more. Okay, so they can sit right here. All right. In the meantime, let's just welcome you all. And first time doing it here, very exciting, yeah? Let's start off. New city, new audience. How did we get involved in acting? And then we're going to go different. Or effects. How did you get involved in effects?
Hello, everyone. So, I'm a master of technology. Well, my involvement in effects in general started when I was a child. I had, a father who showed me things, movies that I never should have seen. My mother didn't agree. And, it was a lifelong obsession, which ultimately led to one of the high points of my career, which was working with these fine people on Aliens. And I worked for Stan Winston at that time. And prior to that, I had worked with James Cameron at Roger Corman's New World Studios. And we did movies like Battle Beyond the Stars and Galaxy of Terror. And Jim kind of, cut his teeth on movies like that, which put him in a very good position to helm a film like Terminator, but then Aliens. And he kind of took the crew, which included myself and the Skotak brothers and some other folks, from those Corman movies and applied them to Aliens. And the rest is history, and I'm very grateful to have been part of it.
Hello, everybody. You know what I was saying, like something I didn't choose it, it chose me. My situation was kind of like that. I was a rambunctious student, let's say. And it kind of one that causes problems. And a teacher with a hard hand decided that I was going to be in her play. And I said, no, I'm not. She goes, yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. She ended up winning. And the reason that I didn't want to be in the play also was because at the time, I was really bad at reading aloud. And I told her, I said, listen, I don't want to be in your play because I don't like reading in front of people. She said, we're going to do this thing called improv. And can you pretend? I go, yeah, I can pretend. She goes, okay, then that's what we're going to do. And that was the start of it. I did one play, that play that she was talking about, and then I did another play which was a really big hit at that high school. And later on in college, when I had to decide what I wanted to do, some counselor was counseling me and said, well, what do you enjoy doing? What do you think you're good at? And do you think you can make a living at it? And I went through my head and I thought, well, I like acting and I think I'm good at it, so we'll give that a try. So that was it.
Hey guys. So I was not a happy camper teenager making trouble, and my parents were freaking out, and they borrowed some money from my grandparents and threw me into a boarding school to see if they could, tame me. And while I was there, somebody said, "Here, take these, learn those lines. You're going to be in a play." And I kind of knew what plays were, but I'd never been to a theater before, so I said, yeah, okay. And I learned the lines, and immediately everybody said, "Oh, you're really good at this." I said, "What?" I had no idea what I was doing. When the line stood up, said them, they said, "You're really good." I said, "No idea." "Well, you can be in the next one." And I got the next one, so as the years went by, I stayed at that school for about 3 years and just did a ton of plays. And a buddy of mine who was at that school and left and came back said, "Guess what? I just got accepted to a theater school. I'm going to be an actor." And I kind of went, oh, people do this. And I did that, and that was it. The rest was history. It took me about 2-3 years to get my head around that. But hey, and I realized there was nothing else I wanted to do more. So there we go.
Hello? Hey. Well, I was forced into it. Because my father was a single parent and he decided that Saturdays was the day each of his kids had to do something and get out of the house so he could clean and pay the bills. So he'd taken us to the theater, and then I lived in Bethesda outside of Washington, D.C., and there was a small fringe theater group called the Washington Theater Club, and they had Saturday afternoon student or child workshops. So I went down there, and I think the prevailing theme amongst all of us is going to be that somebody said, "Hey, you're really good at this," and you know, that was my first bite. And there you go.
Hello. So it sounds like a couple of my co-stars up here were the kids that made my life very hard on a regular basis at work. So maybe you guys can come and talk to some of the students and maybe give them a tip on some things to do. So my story is a little bit different. I was eating lunch in my school cafeteria, and Sarah Jackson, who was a casting director, came around taking pictures. Which sounds a little creepy now, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. The irony is, at the Air Force Base that I lived at, you could go home and eat lunch. So if you lived within a certain radius, and we lived within a certain radius, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I would often go home for lunch, because why not? This happened to be a day that my mom was not going to be home, so normally I wasn't even eating in the school cafeteria. And came around taking pictures and didn't think anything of it. And then she took pictures back to James Cameron, and he like picked out the people kind of that looked what he had in mind. And then they went back to the nurse and said, "Okay, these are all the people, what are their names, how can we get a hold of them?" Because she knew everybody, it was just easier. And my dad was a medic in the Air Force, and so she knew my dad and said, "Hey, they keep going back to Carrie's picture. Just to give you a heads up, they're going to be calling you. This is what they're going to be asking you." And my dad came home from work and he's like, "Did someone take your picture at school the other day?" "Oh, yeah, I don't know why, but they did." So we're like, okay, well, and then my parents said, "Would you like to give it a try?" So acting wasn't something I'd ever done before. I was like, "Yeah, sure." You know? So we kept going back for auditions at our school. And then they called up and said it was between myself and another girl. So they had me go to Pinewood, and I met Sigourney, and I was like completely starstruck because Ghostbusters had just come out. So I went out and I bought myself an autograph book, and I walked in and was like, "Hi, can I have your autograph, please?" And I guess by that stage they pretty much knew it was me, but they just wanted to see what our chemistry was like. So they were all kind of laughing about me asking her for her autograph. But yeah, so that's where my story began and kind of ended too. So.
Hello. My parents would tell you that I was always a drama queen, but I'm going to say I was a model student and never gave anybody a lick of trouble. But when I was a freshman in high school, we had moved and I transferred to a new school, and it was much bigger and it had many more facilities and opportunities than my little previous school. So I tried out for everything. I tried out for cheerleading, that was a bust. I was on the math team for about 10 minutes. And what I got into was I got a role in the play. And that was very rare for a freshman at that time to have a lead. And then after that, that's what I did in high school. I was in all the plays, and senior year in the yearbook I was voted best actress and all that stuff. So I guess it chose me for a while.
So, just trying to think. Yeah, there's a theme with the boys that you were. I see it. Yeah. No, that wasn't me. My parents were huge theater lovers, and even before we were born, they would spend every cent and go to see a play. They lived in New York and Manhattan, and they collected all their playbills and things like that. And so they would take us to see plays, and it was magical. The curtain, the lights went down, the curtain went up. I mean, it was terrifying. There were live people there, and so I was a very shy child. I never would go up and get an autograph from anyone. I went to those things. They go, "Now everybody go and get it." And I was like, "No." I said, "Ugh," no, I didn't want to do that. And I think it was right before I was in junior high. My parents went to New York for a trip, and my mother was at a bookstore, and she saw this book, and it had acting in the title. It says, "Respect for Acting." Uta Hagen. No, she had no idea who Uta Hagen was. She's this incredibly famous teacher. It's an amazing book. But she said, "Oh, there's acting in the title. Let me get you
It's a
the
great book.
Yeah, it's an incredible.
It's an amazing book.
Yeah, respect for acting. If you want to kind of maybe understand, how actors do it and what the whole. So I started. It's a very simple book, and I started to read it, and it was fascinating. And then I too found out that you could actually train to be an actor. There was something called a drama school where once I could finish high school, I could go and learn how to do that. And I was like, I'm in. This is great.
I come from a performing family, and my mother was an opera singer, and my dad was a violinist and conductor, and so there was a lot of. She was quite well known, so I didn't, and my youngest sister wanted to be an actress from the very beginning, and so I put it in the back drawer for a long time because it was an impossible act to follow, because my mother basically had a gift that was undeniable, and I was like, no, I don't have it. And I was in international choirs and things like that. I was going to be an opera singer at one point. I was thinking about it. But my mother used to take us to New York too, and I went to see Jesus Christ Superstar. I was 12. Jesus Christ Superstar and the horse one. Echoes, yeah. And Echoes.
Oh, wow.
With Anthony Hopkins. And after I saw those two, I just went, I want to do this, but I'm not going to tell anybody. And I remember writing my grade 10 teacher, I want to be an actor, but I'm not going to tell anyone ever. And then as I carried on, I had this in my head and everything, and was more a sports guy. And then I did 1 year of university, and I just looked myself in the mirror and went, I'm going to be an actor. And I was actually, to be honest, I was depressed about it in that moment. I went, I'm going to be an actor. It's so hard. How's it going? What kind of future?
How's it going now?
Life is going to be so difficult. I was right. Anyways.
You should read Respect for Acting, buddy.
My cousin was in a drama school, a well-known drama school in England, and Mark went to the same school, and I knew nothing about it, but I auditioned for a whole bunch of schools, and I ended up going to England, because I thought, at every step I wanted to see, am I any good, am I garbage, and I thought, I'll get an international experience out of it, at the very least, if I go to the school. And it turned out to be a much bigger experience living in England than I imagined, life-changing. And so anyway, I carried on from there. And I stayed in England because things like Aliens were down the street as an audition. I mean, literally, incredible. The first audition I ever did was for Trevor Nunn and Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express, and I got it. It was like, I'm going to stay here for a while.
That's amazing. Okay, so obviously we know we're all here for a very special movie. Do you remember the first scene that you guys shot?
Yeah. I shot the scene with Paul Reiser coming down the corridor to visit Sigourney to say, you gotta come to the Planet Search. She says, no, take off, I'm not interested, So my first scene was no lines at all, coming, marined up, and Paul doing his weaselly, come on. And we get to the end of the scene, we rehearse or whatever, and we're shooting it, and I say, Jim, as we get to the end, I say, can I say, thanks for the coffee? Pause. Yeah. that was my first line, first scene.
The first scene I ever did was the cafeteria scene, and that was the first scene I ever did on film. And I got there, and by the I walked up, and Bill Paxton goes, "Danny Cash is in the house! Everybody, Danny Cash is here!" He didn't know me at all. It's fantastic, actually. I love him for that. And because I was shitting my pants. And everyone knew their lines. Everyone was all over the script. Al Matthew was like big, and everyone was saying all kinds of improv shit around. And I was like, I just came from like a classical theater school. Everything is like word perfect. I didn't know you did this.
Well, the reason Bill said what he just said is that you don't ad-lib, you don't mess with Jim's script. You have to ask permission. And in the cafeteria scene, we were ad-libbing a lot, but we weren't on mic. So only the people with real lines show up on it. Because I was talking and I'm watching the movie and it's like, I'm not hearing myself.
Either of you remember your first scene?
My first scene was, again, first scene ever in a movie, was walking into the nest with, the lineup of all of us walking in. And I had no idea what back to one was when they said back to one. I'm like, what? And Bill was right next to me. He goes, "You've never done this?" He goes, "Don't worry, darling. We'll learn what we earn." You'll learn while you earn. And then Zaggy would just, and that was the first, approaching the nest. That was the first day and going into it, and all that, so.
Well, so my first day was obviously my first day on camera too. And I don't remember exactly which one was first, but it was at the very beginning. My first two ones that I remember would be like when I jumped in, when you guys were all trying to find me underneath the grates, and I was like crawling around and all that kind of fun stuff. Because I remember that, and they were talking about having my stunt double do the one where they shot. I don't know who was shooting at me.
Mark.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't hit me. But when they went across, you could actually see my face more, so that I actually had to end up doing it. But I remember that scene, and then the scene with us in, yeah. So those were the two, but I don't know which one was first.
My first scene was my death mask scene. And never forget going to the soundstage, 4:30 in the morning, because it was a rather extensive makeup, and little segue here, there was somebody in the distance in the cavernous soundstage with a flashlight. Get closer, it's actually Jim Cameron at like 4:30 in the morning, taking notes. And he was so absorbed, I said, "Good morning, Jim," and he was just in another world. He didn't even reply. But going to makeup, get hooked up, I got wires up my leg, up through my costume, up through the death mask. One piece had a chemical that fizzed, one smoked, and one bubbled. And get thrust onto the set. I have to wait until they spray water to activate these chemicals. But, caveat, the chemicals are toxic. So I actually have to, this would never happen on a film set today. So I actually hold my breath, chemicals are going, Jim calls action, I've got a lit, live, real flamethrower that shoots flame 25 yards, and I'm supposed to direct directly at Jim Cameron and the DP. Flame bars to the right, big helicopter fan off to the right. I turn into camera, fire the thing, the first take I fired it above Jim Cameron, because in the action I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna set him on fire. I fired slightly above, and then after the fact, Jim was like, no, Mark, no, directly right down the pipe, just shoot it right at Glenn's. I was like, okay. So we did it twice, but after I fell in between the flame bars and waited for two guys much bigger than me, and I was weighing well over 200 pounds. They lifted me up by my arm, stuck me in front of the helicopter fan. I'm still holding my breath, by the way. And then the helicopter fan blows away the toxic fumes, and then I could breathe. And that was my introduction to action filmmaking.
Ricco?
My first day was it was with the original Hicks. a guy named James Remar. And one of the things that actors do often, if you have to be in a scene with somebody and you're supposed to be buddies, I try and find ways that we actually can be kind of buddies off screen so that when we're on screen, it's a little easier. And it kind of worked because the original Hicks and I were kind of like cool. And so we shoot the first scene, and I remember walking around, and we were walking from the back of the set. And this was a set where we're in this little hot thing, and he has a little gun that he uses for a special occasion or something like that. And I remember walking from the back and thinking, and seeing all the plastic and cardboard and wood holding the setup, and thinking fiberglass, and thinking, this is not gonna look much like anything on camera. And I walk around, and all of a sudden, boom, you see the other side, which way you see all, you feel like you are in a cave, or and then they add the smoke and the atmospheric smoke and the 3 different types of slime, and all of a sudden it comes to life. The weird thing about that was we shot that scene and we shot for a couple of weeks, and then Remar was suddenly gone, and this new guy comes in. So who knew? So, and he's like, give it away.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that he's right about wanting to bond with somebody and with an actor and the actors you're working with. And so with Ricco, what I did was
You went the other way.
Offset, we went and played basketball, and I let him.
I'm leaving.
I let him beat me in 1-on-1 basketball to make him feel good about it.
It worked. I felt great. We became good friends.
Actually, thank you. It was really interesting, the little swap-a-rooney they did on us, because nothing was said. Nothing. We show up for work. We've been working with this guy for 2 weeks. And he was my squad leader, so I was on his team and everything. And we read the call sheet, and it's like, who's Michael Biehn? And the secretary looks at me, blank face, he's Hicks. And we're all going, and everybody treated it that way, like, well, of course, this is the guy, like, as if we'd been working with Michael for 2 weeks. We were gaslit completely. Like, I don't think I'm crazy. Am I crazy? They're very different, physically, and the voices are different.
But he was
stupid.
very cool. Michael, Billy, and I did a movie. I think it was my first movie, maybe, or second, Lords of Discipline. So we spent, a couple of months together. Yeah. And when I thought, Michael's coming. So Billy and Michael and I, we knew each other. It'll be absolutely fine. There's no problem. Michael's going to come in and just nail it, which he did.
Yeah. I mean, in truth, the most admirable performance is Michael on a dime, flying over and being on set. Was it 2 days?
Oh man,
2 days. 2 days. Wow. And walks right in and nails it. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. Most of us, you weren't even freaking out where we were a movie star then, right? Most actors are just shitting themselves to have 2 days preparation. I mean,
Well, the thing about, first of all, I had worked with Jim and Gillis, because I've done the Terminator with them, so I was very familiar with them, and felt good being around them. And Hicks is not a very yappy guy. I, kind of had to, look as tough as this one. I worked as hard as I could in the weight room to look as tough as this one. I scared to fall asleep on the set. Look, Michael's in character. Every once in a while he smiles, he grunts. He puts 2 or 3 lines together. It was a pretty easy character to walk into. And again, and I'm sure somebody's already talked about the fact that the script, the relationships between the characters that are written in the script that Jim created are just phenomenal. And I think I've said this before, but this group of actors, we really each other since we've done the movie. Mark used to have us all over on the weekends for he would cook and we were just the cast that there was nobody arguing, nobody bitching, nobody moaning, nobody was a star, nobody was not, we were just, it was a fantastic group, and it still is, and it's an honor for me to be part of the movie, which I believe it's Jim Cameron's best movie. Yeah. I'm biased, but I just think that, and it's because of this group here, and he's just he picked an incredible cast, and this one here was so wonderful too. It's just she was just so good, and people talk about Jim. It's difficult, this and that. He used to treat her. Did he treat her so well? Didn't he?
Yeah, and like when I first started on set, he went to my dad and he's like, just give me some tips. What can I do to work with her? Because I hadn't worked with many children. And my dad's like, Carrie will do exactly what you tell her to do. Just say XYZ, and she will do XYZ. And I pretty much am. And I know, like in that scene that we had where you were checking me out, I had to just stare off. But like, I'm naturally nosy, so I was like looking at everything else. And so James Cameron just came over. He's like, okay, here's a sticker. Just stare at that sticker. And so he would do a lot of things like that to help me. The only time is once, I'm sure he probably had some thoughts in his head, because we were doing this one scene, and it was when you guys come and get me when I'm sticking my hands and I'm here and here in the water, and nobody else was on set. They were just doing the part with me underneath, and he told me, okay, I'm gonna say the line, whatever it was, and then you're gonna give your line. So I said, okay. He's like, are you ready? And I said, yeah. So we started filming, and he says a line. That was not the line he told me he was going to say. And so I didn't say anything. And then everybody's like kind of quiet. He says, cut. Carrie, why didn't you say your line? And I said, well, you told me you were going to say XYZ, and you said ABC. So you didn't say what you told me you were going to say. And my mom said she was like crawling under, because I was like, so she's like, Carrie, I was crawling underneath the table, and everybody went, ugh.
Shit together, Cameron.
And then he just said, well, Carrie, you're absolutely correct. I did not say what you told me to say. So, but I kind of wanted to follow up with something that you were saying about the cast. And for me, because it's the only movie I've been in, I thought that it was always like this. But since talking to other friends that I've met through conventions, like, it is not like, I always feel like it's a family reunion. I had a lot going on with my personal life this weekend. My daughter has homecoming, and my kids have races, and like all this different kinds of stuff, so I'm not going to be there to help her get ready. But coming here, I was like, no, I can't let everybody down. Like, I have to go, like, and see everybody, because we don't always get that opportunity to see each other. So
it seems like James created a family. From an outsider's point of view, I just met you guys last month, but from watching you guys interact with each other, it just seems like a real genuine family that actually likes each other.
We do. We all do like each other, except for Mark.
Except for me.
Other than that, we all love each other. No, I wanted to add that it was a really interesting experience for a young actor, because when I did the first scene with James Remar, and James had a very different kind of character than Michael came with, and I got used to that character being the character, and then Michael came in, and Michael was doing his thing, and it was so different, and it took me a while to appreciate it, and I didn't really appreciate it until I saw the whole film put together, and it was just a great experience, because sometimes you think somebody's good and then somebody else is not as good, and what you find out is that it's not good. It's this person is that and this person is that, and it opened my head up as an artist that you really can be good doing so many different things. It's just that whatever you do, you have to be committed and do that well.
I remember listening to Sigourney, and she was a star by that point, and thinking, she acts so small.
this is gonna be garbage.
Like, I couldn't believe she was so small. I don't know if you guys felt that way about her, but when I was witnessing it, I hadn't been on films before. And I thought, this is never gonna work. It was like whispering the whole thing.
But there's also, I want to say something, it was a long shoot. You don't often, Michael maybe has done some 3-4 month shoots. We were on it, what, 3.5 months? Something? And it was tough for all kinds of reasons, but not only that, the script is just, not only is it, I believe, like Michael Jim's best movie by far, you don't get scripts like that. The number of times that scripts, and maybe if you're Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks, you'll get masterpieces arriving in front of you more frequently than other people, but when you go through it, it was kind of like baptism of fire for lots of reasons and the length. So we came out as a family, and the years go on, and it just gets richer for all kinds of reasons. And I always say it's Cameron. It's his genius.
I have a question. I want to talk to Alec over there, hiding over there, before I turn it over to the audience. I died. What was your process in creating our monster for this movie? Because you're a professional monster maker. What was your process in delving into this guy?
Well,
Or girl, actually, right?
we started off, the process started by sheer terror when Stan said, hey, guys, guess what we're going to do? A sequel to Ridley Scott's Alien. And we're like, shit, us? We're working on something called Invaders from Mars right now. and we knew Jim was, we had heard about it a little bit. So when Jim came, he was full of confidence, of course, which is great, because that's what you want out of a leader. So he's like, yeah, we'll fucking do this. We're like, are you going to bring in H.R. Giger? And he goes, nah, I'm going to design the Queen myself, which was the new character. And we're like, you're going to, wow, the balls to like put yourself up to, that. And then we saw his drawings, and we're like, oh, damn, yeah. Because, Cameron's an artist. Cameron was an effects guy, and, he's got it in his head, right? So we started working in Los Angeles before shipping out to London, and we did some things like, there was going to be a miniature queen, so we sculpted the miniature queen, we sculpted the tail of the alien, the head of the alien, I sculpted the face huggers. We got a jump on everything we possibly could, and we molded those things, and then we shipped the molds to Pinewood. And for me, I had to stay behind a little bit in LA while the rest of, Stan and his other, 4 guys went to London, and I was, bye, because I had to stay to do the set work on Invaders from Mars. So Stan's like, you're in charge. So what I didn't really, I was bummed because I wanted to be with the gang, because like you all, we were like young kids who were like in this for real, right? And it was so I felt a little left out, but then the Invaders experience was so valuable to me because it was such a difficult shoot, and it wasn't quite with the caliber of filmmakers that, James Cameron puts together. And so I came to the set a little bit later, and how this hope was built. You guys were shooting already, and Michael, I don't know how you could act with jet lag after 2 days. He was like 2 weeks for me. I was dragging my butt around, feeling terrible that I wasn't contributing to the crew.
He was sleeping on set.
Stan would never let me do that. But you know what? All the effects in this movie were done pre-digital, pre-computers. It's all organic. It's analog. Yes, let's hear it. Great when it came out, and still looks great to this day. It shows you what just the human touch and human ingenuity and craftspersonship can go a million miles, and there's many ways to do things, as you said in acting, there's a lot of ways to be successful. So it was just and it's all been documented, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the behind the scenes, but it was a really great, and it was very successful. Although we until the screening, we weren't sure what was going to work, what creature was going to look cool. You live in kind of fear until you finally see it. And then you might see all your flaws in what you do. And you think everyone else sees it.
Have you seen the, I love looking at the tests in North Hollywood in that alley for the Queen. Yeah. And you have like brooms and trash bags or something attached to the broom.
The other thing I found was amazing was, just to piggyback on what you were saying, Alec, I remember when we were shooting, there's a lot of downtime when you're shooting. And there was this big monologue that Bill Paxton had for the drop ship. And he was working on it. And a lot of times during the downtime, we would be talking or working out on weights or something, but Bill would be in the corner working that monologue. And I did not think it was going very well for him. And I remember thinking, like a bit like you thought, I don't think this guy is gonna work for him. And the film comes out, and he fucking blows up. And everything he did worked. And I think that's a credit to his hard work. It's a credit to Jim's idea of what this character was really like. And it's also a credit to somebody who probably doesn't get a lot of credit, is the editor. Because when the movie came out, I thought he stole the movie. He fucking stole the movie.
Well, I have a question that actually arose last night. I was asked this by somebody, one of you. What was it like acting with a puppet or an animatronic sort of creature? And I said, well, I didn't. I was grabbed by a real live stuntman in a rubber suit. But Carrie was with the Queen. And so this is perhaps for Carrie and Alec, is what was that like? How did that work? Because I wasn't there that day.
I want to hear it from you. I've never heard this question, so I'd love to hear it.
I don't know. It didn't seem that different from regular the rest of the stuff. To be honest with you, I don't remember exactly. So you probably know more of that details.
You were so young, you're just like in this world, I guess this is what grown-ups do.
Yeah, Sigourney said, Carrie is so oblivious that this is not normal. Even my own children, I have a wall and it's like my aliens wall, and my grandparents had read this thing years ago that was like, if movie stars, when they win their Oscars, they put them in the bathroom, so it's like the humble brag. Everyone sees it because everyone goes to the bathroom, but you're not like in your face, And so, it was a little bit embarrassing because my grandparents, their humble brag was on the back of the door of the bathroom was a big old, the picture, the poster from Aliens. A little bit kind of an interesting place. So just outside of our bathroom, I have like my Aliens wall, and I have my scripts, things like that, all up there. And my daughter, when she was little, when we first moved in, she's like, and this is our special wall. See, here's my friend. So there's my friend Sigourney. Here's our friend Ricco. And she was like pointing everybody out, and she's like saying to her friends, and my friends were like, dude, she has no clue that this is not normal. So like for me, being on set, like with an Aliens, it was like, all right, okay, here's another day. What are we doing? It was cool because it was so different, and I didn't know what it was going to look like until we were on the set. And they had all the eggs and everything around, and then they had the Queen Alien up there. I know Sigourney was really worried because she had so many different things, like some of the shots were blanks, some were not, and then she had the fire, and she had all this stuff, and she had a 9-year-old. So there was a lot of like things where she's like pushing me behind her, and it wasn't necessarily what she was told to do, but I think it was more of like that motherly instinct. But I would you could see me kind of peeking around because I was like, what's going on? This is kind of cool. What's going on today? Ooh, there's a lot. Yeah. So that wasn't, and it was more things like there was things I was specifically told you stay away from, and one of them was the little smoke thing because the end of it was really hot. And on that day, I was so worried the whole time because I backed up when I wasn't supposed to, and I backed into it. And since, of course, I had holes everywhere, I hit right where the thing was, and I was like, oh, and I jumped away real quick, and I kept thinking, I hope James didn't see that because I'll get in trouble for being near it. So it was more of that kind of stuff that I remember from that than the actual alien.
I I remember Carrie on set, and the beautiful thing about having a 9-year-old, especially the way she was at that time, because she was so real, so just normal. And on set, you know, there's a lot of...
Would you still call me normal? That is the question.
Well, on set, you know, when you're around actors working, there can be a certain amount of tension there because everybody's focusing on what they have to do. And then you got this little girl that's going, "Hey, how are you today? Did you like the tea?" You know, and all of a sudden, you know, your stress level just dies. And I just fell in love with her. I'd never worked on the set with a little child before, and I just felt like it took away a lot of the tension that's normally on set.
In terms of the Carrie and the Queen and other actors with all the pieces, I mean, you know, Cameron did something very brilliant in that scene where, you know, the threat is that, you know, that this child is in danger from this vengeful mother, right? But instead of, I think, you know, some other directors might have tried to block that where like, well, then Carrie's gonna run around and duck in between the power loader and the... Cameron knew that was not, you know, that's not gonna happen. So that was the clever part when he had her do what she does, which is to go under grating and hide, and that created separation between what was going on up top and all the technical stuff and her. And then you have those great POVs of her, you know, you're looking down at Carrie and then you're looking up through the grating at the Queen, searching for her. It's very creepy. And he went for that as opposed to, I think, what might happen in a contemporary movie, which is that like all the shit's got to be piled on it, you know. So that helped us. But I think we're all big believers in having something on set. You know, actors, Stan used to say this all the time, our work will be ineffective if the actors do not believe it. So in modern films, you very often have people acting to green tennis balls or whatever, and they can do it because they're actors and they're pros, but it's more difficult and it's a little, and eye lines are maybe not quite right. But in this film, you see, you know, Sigourney is that far away from a snapping queen alien. The flame is real, and it's all there, and it's visceral, and I think it just builds the success of the movie.
I just, you know, thought of since we were talking about Carrie and Newt, and it's one example, and I have dozens and dozens of examples of working with Jim Cameron, and that when you come up with an idea that is different than what Jim Cameron thought of, he has enough confidence to say, "Oh, that is a good idea." But yeah, Michael, do that. And one example, because we were talking about Newt, is that when we were all looking at the map, you were like running around, like, trying to, you know, like to see what was going on. And I said to Jim, it wasn't in the script, I said to Jim, do you mind if I just like pick Newt up and like she kind of knows, you know, like, you know, let me put her up and see what you think. And he said, "Good, Michael, yeah, let's do that." That's just an example of a director who's very, you remember that? Yeah. That was not scripted, that's just an example of a director who is not, who is so confident in his own abilities that when he hears an idea that he hadn't thought about, he's not intimidated by it and just says, "Yeah, that's a good idea." It was good for me, it was good for Hicks, it was good for Carrie, it was good for the movie.
It was a little terrifying when you don't want to waste, you know, he would have no patience for, he wouldn't be mean if you suggested something and it didn't work, but if you were like trying to pad your part or, you know, that kind of thing, you know, it was scary to suggest something, and I was definitely scared.
You mean when Ricco was doing that?
There are some actors, but I remember, I had this idea, and I thought, oh God, but I've got to say it to him. It was the scene where we wake up and we're in our undershirts and shorts and everything, and it was the "Hey, that's guessing you were mistaken for a man," and there was no pull-ups in that. It was just he just says they pass by each other, and you know he gives the line. And I was thinking, oh my God, he's stupid, but he's not that stupid. I'm nothing like a dude in a tight undershirt. And so I said, but you know, I've got this idea, and I told him, you know, if we could rig a pull-up bar, I can do these really difficult pull-up bars, and if we could do the line, you know, when it's right there, you know, maybe cut the camera there, it will work better. And see the same thing, he kind of paused, because that was a big task, because they had to get the grips out and do the whole thing. And he's like, okay, and he stopped it and had that set up. And yeah, it worked. I mean, if you're doing something to make the story better, we're all working together, and that's the whole point.
Because the lines are the same, but it makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the one thing that Jeanette is describing is she really is badass. All of us have been working out like crazy. And Jeanette just did these behind the neck pulls like it was nothing. And she really made Ricco look bad.
I have a rule actually with other directors that I always tell all actors, don't ask. Just do it. And then the director will think it's their idea anyway. So it's nice that James created that atmosphere that you felt you could do that. But in my rules, don't ask.
Yeah, I remember the breakfast scene, and we were riffing a little bit, and James was allowing it to go, and so some of that stuff wasn't in the original script. But like Michael said, the brilliance of James was, I think, part of it was he cast really well. He knew what he wanted, and he cast well, and then he let them do their thing. And if it didn't work, he let you know it didn't work. But if you drop something in there and it worked, like say for instance, I got out of the hypersleep chamber, and I've been lying in it for a while they were trying to set up the mirror so they can make it look like it's twice as many. And I remember thinking, I hate this job. And so I get out of it and I say the line, I hate this job, and he goes, next take, keep it in. And it was like that, you know. If it worked, it was in. If it didn't work, he let you know that too.
I wish to say the hypersleep thing at the end. James Cameron was not overly happy with me because, as you probably remember, I liked to talk. And so I'd be in there talking to Sigourney, because she's in the one next to me, and she'd be like, and it'd be like, and it would go, fog up. And so they actually found like a little fan, and so I was allowed to talk as long as I like had the fan going the whole entire time. Because it was hot in there too.
It was.
So unfortunately, we only have a couple minutes left before I release you guys, but I wanted to, since Michael was so wonderful to join us, I want to ask you the question that I asked them when you walked in was, do you remember your first scene shooting?
I don't.
Do you remember your last scene? What's your favorite scene to shoot?
In that movie?
Yes,
I think I had the most fun when, I go up and look and we see the aliens and the aliens all fall out. And we open up on them. So it was all of us with automatic, guns are, they're kind of fun. And Jim was always full of loads and so just all of us opening up on the aliens that day of shooting and guns and stuff like that.
That was my favorite. See, that was such a fun day.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another thing that I remember that when Billy, when Paxton, when they were dragging him down, I said to Jim, hey, because it wasn't blocked that way, and I said to Jim, it hits, it's this guy, and let me, can I get down there to try to save him? And again, Jim said, yeah, it's a good idea. So, of course I didn't, but at least I made an attempt to go after him. But that's a lot of fun. And the interesting thing about that section of the movie that we all had so much fun shooting was that Bill Paxton, it's so loud, and there's like fans going on, and with all the shooting, it was so loud. Everybody had earplugs in, or a lot of us had earplugs to protect our ears from the sound of the guns and everything. Bill was improvising during that scene, and so Bill was improvising. So when they got into post-production, Jim was looking at it, and Bill was talking, and so Jim said, Bill, what were you saying? He's like, I forgot. And so they had to go back and really break it down and try to figure out what would fit in his mouth during those improvs. And it was probably, you want some here?
Wow.